So the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus has actually been out for about 6 months now, which is pretty crazy to believe. It honestly does not feel like it's been 6 months at this point. But you also have to remember that a ton of phones have came out since this phone's release, including but not limited to the SE2s, the OnePlus 8s, the OnePlus 8 Pro, the OnePlus Nord, and now the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 and Note 20 Ultra, as well as a ton of other phones too. So even the Pixel 4a, I forgot about that one. So within the last 6 months, I can definitely tell you there have been many highs and not a lot of lows for this specific device. However, the one thing to keep in mind is that, in my opinion, from the first day this thing was released up until now, this thing is pretty underrated. Like, nobody talks about this phone at all. No, it just seems like nobody really even remembers this thing. They go straight to the Galaxy S20 or they go up to the Galaxy S20 Ultra. This middle device, nobody really talks about. And it's funny because last year with the S10, S10e, and S10 Plus, there was kind of like the opposite thing. With the S10 Plus, I didn't really feel like anybody really talked about it that much. A lot more people were talking about the Galaxy S10e and even the standard Galaxy S10. Not that many people were talking about the S10 Plus, which is really funny. But with the S20 Plus, it doesn't really seem to be that case. And what I can tell you is, in starting off with the front, I mean, you guys already know the 6.7-inch dynamic AMOLED display on this thing still looks really, really good. There's no burn-in on these displays or anything like that, which is a huge highlight. Anytime I used this thing or used this thing, it was extremely fine. The best thing about it is that even comparing this thing to, the Note 20 or Note 20 Ultra, there are some pretty big advantages for still picking up this panel. Now, in my opinion, I like the way this thing feels in the hand in terms of the panel. It's slim to the sides, and still, there hasn't really been too many panels out in the market that's beaten this thing. It's 1440p, but on top of that, you have that 120Hz refresh rate, which is an extremely important thing to note. Like, that is one of the most important features of this device, and that is something that if this thing came out with like a 90Hz display or something, I feel like it would have been overshadowed by a lot of the competition, but that is not the case. The 120Hz display on this thing has extremely held up, including the hole punch display. That thing looks really good, came from the S10, but that 120Hz definitely is one of my favorite things about this device. Still the fingerprint sensor in the display as well, nothing really changed there. USB Type-C on this thing. Now the micro SD card slot on this thing has been a really cool feature because we look at some other phones that have came out, including the OnePlus 8s, which those were never going to get anyway. But with the Galaxy Note 20, the base model, that still does not have a micro SD card slot, where the S20 Plus does have it. So that's another big advantage for the S20 Plus, even comparing it to the next gen of, the Note lineup. It's still really interesting to see how much of an advantage you have by picking up the Plus version even 6 months later than on the Note 20. And on the back, you have that quadruple camera setup that I'll get into in a second, and that thing is still an amazing camera setup for sure. The back still feels really nice, and just overall the phone feels extremely good in the hand. Now, I forgot to mention this early on in the video, but one of the biggest assets for picking up this specific device 6 months later would definitely be the price tag. This thing does not cost, $1,100 or whatever it cost. I think like $1,150 or whatever it was. This thing does not cost that price anymore. You can pick up some of these things for less than $700 on Amazon, which is a crazy price to pay for this thing. I'll leave it linked down in the description below if you want to pick it up from there. You can help support the channel at the same time. But that is honestly a super crazy thing. To pay that much for this device is an insane value in my opinion. That is one of its biggest assets for sure. Like I stated, the panels, the way it feels, the way it looks and everything is always going to be good, but that price tag is something that as the phone depreciates more and more, this phone keeps getting better and better for sure. Now, software wise, this is probably one of its biggest evolutions in my opinion in the last several years of devices that we've seen in the past 6 months for this specific device. Now, that was a long-winded intro to get into the software, but this thing obviously came out with One UI 2. It did get the update for One UI 2.5, which if there are any Samsung Galaxy S20, S20 Plus, S20 Ultra, Note 20 or Note 20 Ultra devices out there, people who are listening who own those devices, you guys need to go and update to One UI 2.5 because that is honestly a very good update coming from One UI 2. It's still, not stock Android or anything, but there are a lot of cool capabilities within that software that really make it a compelling update for sure. Now that's the One UI 2.5 update side of things, and there's been a lot of updates there. I may even made a separate video talking about it, but another humongous change that has happened that's even bigger than this is that we just now got that official release from Samsung at that Note 20 lineup keynote where they said that all the devices starting from the S10, including the S20 Plus, is going to be getting an extra year of software updates. So this phone, when it first came out, we pretty much knew it was going to stop at Android 12 or whatever. Now this thing is going to be stopping at Android 13, which is humongous. That is a huge asset for this thing. And the S10 Plus, S20, S10, all those phones are included too. But with the Galaxy S20 Plus, we have that capability, which is a really, really cool feature. And that's definitely one of the biggest things that's changed, in my opinion, from the first time this phone was released up until now. So software-wise, it got that One UI 2.5, and we just got another version of software eventually in the future when that comes out. So that's definitely a crazy thing for sure. Now, performance-wise, it still has held up extremely well. When I played with it at first, it was extremely fast. I've, since bought the Note 20s, Note 20 Ultras, and compared it to those. And again, I can tell you, those phones are maybe the Note 20 Ultra maybe is a little bit faster. I don't know what it is, but that phone does feel a little bit faster to me personally. It probably is just a placebo thing. You're also getting more RAM on that device, but the S20 Plus with that 8GB of RAM option still is extremely fast. I never used this phone and felt like it was a slow phone or it was laggy or anything like that. I didn't feel like that by any means, and that is probably one of its biggest assets, is that you just feel like you have an extremely smooth device. And with that 120Hz refresh rate, it really does feel that much better than a lot of the competition that may be a little bit faster, but it's stuck at 60Hz, for example. And like I said, extremely fast device, still feels extremely smooth. None of the advancements from other companies or even Samsung has been able to, exponentially top what this phone has been able to do. So that's a really good thing. If you own the S20 Plus, you're not going to feel like you have an outdated phone at this point. So definitely performance-wise, it's still held up extremely well. Now hitting on the cameras, like I stated, quadruple camera setup, and this phone camera has still held up extremely well. One of its biggest assets when it comes down to the camera is first of all having that telephoto and ultra wide sensor. Those things are extremely cool. The depth lens is whatever, if you want to use it, you have the capability, but the fact that it can shoot 8K videos on it is one of its biggest assets, because when I'm comparing this thing to a lot of the competition, I'm able to see, how it stacks up. Now, 8K isn't the end all be all. You can still have better resolution videos from a camera that can only shoot 4K than, comparing the 4K to the S20 Plus, for example, but that is one more ability. That's like having an extra camera lens or, having the extra ability on a phone. That is an extremely cool thing. And even though probably nobody's ever going to be shooting 8K from these things in a very long time in terms of a mainstream viewpoint, but that's still an extremely cool capability. And I would rather have that capability than not. And it is a camera feature at the end of the day. So the Note 20 lineup also got it, but there's a lot of other phones so far that have been released that still don't have that capability. So that's another big thing to keep in mind. It is what it is, but the camera department of this phone has held up extremely well. And even ending off with the battery life, the 4500 mAh battery on this thing is still really, really good. Now, I think the S20 may have better battery life by a little bit, but it's still nothing too crazy. The S20 and S20 Plus both have extremely good battery life. You have wireless charging on both. You have reverse wireless charging on this device as well, which is still really cool. And when it comes down to the battery life, I can definitely tell you it's held up really well. None of my devices, my S20, S20 Ultra, S20 Plus, have depreciated or degraded in battery at all, which is really good. And I always love seeing those type of things. So to answer the question, man, how has the Samsung Galaxy S20 Plus been in the last 6 months? I can tell you it's been a very good ride. It's still a tremendous device. The updates in terms of software and even the update for the release cycle of this device has been really impressive because it's getting that extra year of software support. And with its lower price tag, it just makes it that much better of a phone 6 months later, in my opinion. So, and that really pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. Every single subscriber that we get really does count, so it means so much if you guys can hit that. Also check out the other links down in the description as well. My Twitter, my Instagram, my second channel. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.